My parents adored my sister and showed absolutely no interest in my wedding. They laughed, saying, "The real celebration will be your sister's wedding." And my sister mocked, "If it were me, I couldn't handle such a cheap venue, lol. They didn't attend my wedding and completely ignored it. But after the ceremony ended, they showed up in a panic. I was at an old church in Cambridge, discussing arrangements for my wedding. The historic building of First Parish in Cambridge exuded a nostalgic atmosphere that wrapped my heart in warmth. Soft light filtered through the stained glass windows, gently illuminating the wooden pews that held over a century of history. In late May, a refreshing breeze lifted the petals of blooming azaleas in the church garden. This season in New England is perfect for weddings. The majestic sound of the pipe organ echoed through the church, filling my heart with solemnity. "Are you sure about this venue?" The church coordinator looked at me anxiously. Indeed, our budget was less than half the average wedding cost in this area, but Nathan and I had decided paying off his student loans would take priority over an extravagant wedding. "Yes, this is the perfect place for us," I answered with a smile. The reception at the adjacent Harvest restaurant would provide ample space for about close friends and colleagues. Inside the historic brick building, elegant chandelier light cast soft shadows on white tablecloths. Nathan and I were just beginning our careers as researchers. I worked in a biology lab at Harvard, while he was developing new treatments at MIT. Our combined annual income was $175,000. While not a small amount, we couldn't afford an extravagant wedding considering our student loan payments. But this was our choice. Living honestly with the one I love, that's what I believed would make us happy. That evening, I returned home to find what seemed like a scene from another world. The living room was piled high with luxury brand wedding catalogs, and my sister Vanessa sat there with her fiancé. Her fiancé James was an executive at a major pharmaceutical company, with an annual income exceeding $400,000. "Look, this is our wedding venue." Vanessa excitedly spread out a brochure for a luxury resort hotel. The budget was, which her fiancé's family would cover entirely. They expected over guests, a champagne tower, caviar, a full-course dinner by a top chef. Everything was extravagant. "How lovely," Mother's eyes sparkled as she listened to my sister's wedding plans. Our parents had invested most of their $500,000 retirement fund in my sister's future. However, when the topic of my wedding came up, their expressions changed completely. "You're having your wedding in such a cheap church?" I could never show my face to my friends. Vanessa looked at me with contempt. That gaze held the same sense of superiority she'd had since childhood. "I'll attend Vanessa's wedding, but I won't come to yours." Mother's words pierced my heart like ice needles. Father just nodded silently. Their affection had always been directed toward my sister. Since childhood, Vanessa had been special, beautiful, sociable, living the life our parents had hoped for. Meanwhile, I had chosen the path of a modest researcher. On my way home, fighting back tears, I called Nathan. His warm voice resonated through the receiver. "It's okay, Olivia. We have our own happiness. Even without your family's understanding, we have 50 dear friends who will celebrate with us." Those words gave me strength. True, it might not be flashy, but this wedding would be true to who we are. Though modest, it would be filled with heart. The spring breeze gently swept through Harvard University's campus, visible from the train window with its fresh greenery. Nathan and I would walk our own path, even without our family's understanding, believing that love and honesty would bring true happiness. On the morning of our wedding day, it was a magnificent May day, as if heaven itself was blessing us. The morning sun touched the spire of First Parish in Cambridge, warming the red brick walls that had witnessed over a century of history. In the church garden, fully bloomed azaleas swayed in the spring breeze, their falling petals like nature's own blessing of confetti. From early morning, my best friend Sarah and my lab colleagues had gathered. They carefully arranged flowers one by one on the white tablecloths. Roses, baby's breath, and seasonal flowers created a simple but heartfelt altar. The modest decorations harmonized perfectly with the solemn atmosphere of this historic church. Sarah smiled at me kindly. She had stayed late the night before helping with preparations. While my wedding dress wasn't from a luxury brand, my grandmother's antique lace veil added a special radiance to the simple dress. "Your mother and Vanessa?" Emily asked hesitantly as she helped me dress. "They're not coming," I answered with a smile, trying to keep the pain from showing in my expression. My parents' and sisters' seats would be empty. But that was unavoidable. When the pipe organ's solemn tones began to echo through the church, I took a deep breath. Standing at the entrance to the aisle, about guests watched me with warm smiles. Lab colleagues, college friends, and Nathan's family. Not a huge crowd, but each person's smile filled the space with love. And there was Nathan, waiting at the altar. Tears of joy glistened in his eyes. "My beloved Olivia." Nathan's voice resonated through the quiet church. "Meeting you was the greatest miracle of my life. We may not be wealthy, but let's live honestly. supporting each other, encouraging each other, and sometimes scolding each other, and above all, never forgetting to be grateful. Each of his words reached straight to my heart. Light streaming through the stained glass windows enveloped us gently, like a blessing from heaven. During the ceremony, I noticed the empty family seats. But strangely, I felt no sadness. Instead, gratitude for those who filled this place with warm smiles filled my heart. After the ceremony, the reception began at the adjacent Harvest restaurant. In the historic brick building, soft chandelier light gently illuminated the space. The aroma of New England clam chowder wafted through the air, accompanied by the pleasant conversation of guests. Then came an unexpected visitor. "May I have a moment?" The speaker was Thomas Walker, a prominent figure in the pharmaceutical industry who had shown interest in my research. "Dr. Miller, it was a beautiful ceremony." Thomas approached us with a warm smile and offered his congratulations. This kind of heartfelt ceremony truly represents genuine happiness. Though not extravagant, it's a wedding full of love and sincerity. I was deeply moved. His words brought tears to my eyes. Thomas's expression clouded slightly. "By the way, where are your father, mother, and sister? Are they unwell?" That question created quiet ripples. No one had known that my family had intentionally abstained from attending. But with this question, everything would come to light. The reception continued slowly. The delicate flavor of grilled Atlantic salmon, seasonal vegetable sides, and Boston cream pie for dessert. Though not luxurious, each dish contained the chef's sincere care. The guests' speeches were filled with warmth. The lab professor spoke of our dedicated research approach. College friends talked about our meeting and subsequent growth. And Nathan's parents expressed their joy in welcoming me as a new family member. In that warm atmosphere, I realized anew. True happiness can't be measured by material things or money. It lies in the bonds with people who genuinely celebrate with us. Outside the window, the setting sun over Harvard Square cast gentle light, as if reluctant to end the day. A soft bell rang in the Harvest restaurant's reception hall announcing the dessert service. At that moment, Thomas Walker's expression froze. He stared at his smartphone screen, then looked intently at me. His gaze held indescribably complex emotions. "Dr. Miller." His voice maintained its usual dignity, but carried a hint of sadness. "I need to ask you about this post." The smartphone screen he showed displayed my sister Vanessa's Instagram account, posted just 30 minutes ago. There was a shocking message alongside photos of her surrounded by luxury brand bags and dresses. "I'm too embarrassed to attend my sister's cheap wedding. I wouldn't want my friends to see such a modest wedding. Real celebs understand, right?" The post had likes from our parents. Even a comment from Mother. "That's right, the real celebration will be our beloved Vanessa's wedding." The atmosphere in the venue instantly froze. I took a deep breath and slowly closed my eyes. When I opened them, there were no tears. My voice sounded surprisingly calm. My family refused to attend my wedding, saying it was embarrassing. The sound of 50 guests holding their breath was audible. Everyone had believed the pretense of sudden family illness. Thomas quietly stood up. His expression showed a severity I'd never seen before. "I apologize, but I must attend to an urgent matter." He took out his smartphone and quickly began making calls. "Mr. President, I deeply apologize, but a serious issue has arisen. Urgent action is needed regarding our dealings with the Richardson family." With those words, events began moving rapidly. In one corner of the venue, a video conference with multiple executives had begun. The faces on the screen all wore serious expressions. "We should immediately review the $50 million deal with luxury real estate development. Due to ethical concerns, we should reassess all business relationships." The executives' voices quietly but surely moved the situation forward. Thomas himself was drafting a mass email to industry contacts. Clear words lined the text. "Due to the discovery of serious ethical issues, we are immediately reviewing all business relationships with the Richardson family. Actions that disregard basic human values are incompatible with our corporate philosophy." By then, inquiries from multiple business partners had begun flooding James's company. Smartphone notifications continued ringing like warning bells. "What have you done?" James's angry call to my sister. His voice was so loud it could be heard outside the restaurant. "The company's reputation is ruined. All contracts will be void." Immediately after, my sister's tearful call to Mother. "Mom, this is terrible. James is furious. The company is in trouble." Panic spread like an avalanche. Father received an urgent call from a friend warning him, "Things have gotten serious." The entire family panicked and began rushing to the wedding venue. Meanwhile, I quietly sipped my champagne. The sweetness of the Boston cream pie felt strangely pleasant. Beside me, Nathan gently squeezed my hand. The atmosphere in the venue had changed, like the calm before a storm. Guests watched quietly, but with tangible tension, anticipating what would unfold. Thomas stood before us again and bowed deeply. I sincerely apologize for causing such a disturbance on your special day. I gently shook my head. No, thank you for revealing the truth. Just then, the restaurant door burst open with a loud sound. There stood my family, with hurried footsteps. My parents and sisters' expressions were completely distraught, having lost all their usual dignity and arrogance. Mother's makeup was smeared, her appearance disheveled in a way she would never normally allow. Vanessa, though wearing a luxury brand dress, was pale and trembling. Father tried to speak but kept losing his words, just standing there. Olivia, please. Mother's cry echoed through the venue. Her voice held none of its usual haughtiness. Instead, it dripped with pure fear and desperation. James's company is in trouble. Do something. My sister cried out, nearly collapsing. Big sister, help me. The engagement might be called off. Please, do something. The air in the venue instantly froze. All 50 guests held their breath at this unexpected development. The chandelier light illuminated this dramatic scene like stage lighting. I slowly raised my champagne glass to my lips. Though we hadn't prepared crystal champagne, this modest vineyard sparkle held our own pride and dignity. After taking a sip, I spoke quietly. Would you please be seated? It's poor manners to cause a scene in front of everyone. At those words, Mother seemed to come to her senses, suddenly realizing there were guests present. Oh yes, of course. Mother sat down flusteredly, and Father and my sister followed suit. Next to me, Nathan gently squeezed my hand. His warmth gave me strength. My sister began speaking through her sobs. All of James's company's $50 million in deals might be cancelled. If that happens, the engagement. My life, isn't this the result of you mocking my wedding as cheap and posting about it on social media? Thomas Walker stood up, interrupting my sister's words. His expression held severity but also dignity. Richardson family. His voice quietly but surely resonated through the venue. This is no longer just a family matter. It's a serious ethical issue that goes to the core of our business. My parents' and sisters' faces grew even paler. Discrimination based on social status and economic power. Abandonment of family love. And publicly flaunting these actions on social media. These acts directly oppose the ethical values our industry holds most dear. Thomas quietly scrolled through my sister's post on his smartphone. Cheap wedding, can't show it to my friends, and the likes from parents. This post is already causing major ripples throughout the industry. Father's shoulders slumped. Currently, we're receiving numerous inquiries from business partners, questioning whether we should review our dealings with the Richardson family. But as my sister desperately tried to make excuses, I quietly raised my hand. Vanessa, be quiet. At those words, my sister fell silent. I had never spoken to her in such a strong tone before. This is the fruit of the seeds you sowed, nothing more, nothing less. I picked up my dessert fork. While quietly cutting into the Boston cream pie, I continued. You couldn't celebrate my wedding as family. Instead, you mocked and despised it. How can anyone trust you as business partners? A heavy silence hung over the venue. In that silence, I slowly brought the dessert to my mouth. The gentle sweetness of the custard cream melted on my tongue. But, big sister, we're family, aren't we? At my sister's anguished cry, I tilted my head gently. Family? How interesting. Just a few hours ago my wedding was too embarrassing to attend, wasn't it? Oh yes. Your words about how real celebs understand were quite impressive too. I bet you didn't expect that definition of a celeb to be overturned so quickly. At those words, my sister completely broke down. She collapsed, dragging her luxury brand dress on the floor. Actually, there might be a solution. Thomas spoke again. All eyes in the venue focused on him. Resolving ethical issues requires appropriate, sincere response. And that response cannot be just a formal apology. He placed his smartphone on the table and continued. One stone, complete retraction and apology for the social media posts. Then, a detailed explanation of the circumstances, and a written statement of reflection. Ethics training would also be necessary, Father asked in a thin voice. Then the deals would know, that's just the minimum response. Rebuilding trust will require much more time and effort. At these words, the color drained from my entire family's faces. That's when Nathan quietly stood up. Father-in-law, mother-in-law, and Vanessa, his voice maintained its usual gentleness, but carried inner strength. Value isn't necessarily measured by money or outward luxury. It exists in human sincerity, consideration, and love. Nathan placed his hand gently on my shoulder. This a cheap wedding has the heartfelt blessings of 50 precious people, and those blessings are priceless. The gathered guests quietly nodded. At that moment, large tears fell from my parents' and sister's eyes. They were tears of genuine regret, unlike any I'd seen before. The spring in Cambridge embraced the city with the same gentleness as it had years ago. In front of First Parish in Cambridge, azaleas were once again in full bloom, swaying in the wind. Under those petals, a little girl ran around with a smile. Emma, be careful when you run, I called out with a smile. My 3-year-old daughter danced among the flower petals like a spring fairy. Her eyes held Nathan's gentleness. In these 5 years, our lives had changed dramatically. Nathan's research on new treatments bore fruit, bringing collaboration offers from several pharmaceutical companies. I secured an associate professor position at Harvard University, and above all, the birth of our little one. Emma's presence brought new joy and meaning to our lives. Meanwhile, Vanessa paid a heavy price.
On my 18th
Due to the impact
birthday.
of that day's
But the
social
next
media post, her engagement to James was called off, and her dream of a lavish wedding at a luxury resort hotel vanished. Most of our parents' retirement fund that they had invested also diminished due to stock market crashes. Vanessa stayed secluded at our parents' home for a while. Then one day, she suddenly decided to move to a small city. There she started working at a small flower shop. She sold all her luxury brand bags and dresses, beginning a modest life. "You know," a customer told me, "the flowers you arrange warm my heart," she wrote in her letter. Perhaps the daily interaction with small flowers' honest beauty, rather than expensive vases filled with luxurious blooms, gradually changed her. Our parents changed significantly too. With their retirement fund reduced, they had to give up their planned retirement dream. But surprisingly, this brought positive changes to them. Rather than a luxurious retirement, spending time with family is more important, Mother whispered while holding Emma. Father nodded silently while gently patting his granddaughter's head. Now, meeting in front of this church for monthly family lunches has become our tradition. Of course, not everything was resolved overnight. Rebuilding trust took considerable time. But through this process, we gradually learned what true family bonds mean. The other day, when Vanessa visited my lab after a long while, she gazed at Harvard Square's fresh greenery through the window and quietly began speaking. That wedding day taught me something important. True value isn't about money or appearances. It's found in human connections and genuine caring. Her eyes no longer held their former superficiality. Instead, they reflected genuine warmth. Thomas Walker maintained his strict approach as promised. However, watching my family's sincere remorse and efforts, he gradually opened the path to rebuilding trust. People make mistakes. What's important is what they learn from those mistakes and how they grow, he reportedly said at a recent business meeting. Now, we're building a new form of family. It might not be perfect, but I believe true affection grows within that imperfection. Emma still plays under the azalea petals. The spring sunlight gently illuminates her smile. Come on, it's almost lunchtime. Everyone's waiting, sharing meals with family, such simple happiness. Perhaps that day 5 years ago taught us its importance in an unexpected way. At Harvest Restaurant, white tablecloths are laid as always, with chandelier light softly swaying. The meal isn't extravagant, but the joy of sharing this time together seems more valuable than any luxury cuisine. Emma, Grandma, and Grandpa are here. Watching my daughter happily run to them, I smiled quietly in my heart. Life sometimes takes unexpected turns, but each twist and turn leads us to the right place. A spring breeze gently swept through Harvard Square,